Triston Casas, Roman Anthony, Kyle Teel, Marcelo Mayer. So many names playing with the Worcester Red Sox right now, and we're going to break it all down for you on today's Locked On Red Sox.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Gabby, former ESPN social media associate and currently the host of the Boston Balling podcast as well. And I am here to bring you the latest in all things Boston Red Sox, no matter what kind of mood they choose to put us in that day. I am still here bringing you the latest in everything going on with this Red Sox team and organization, you name it, because Locked On is your team every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Welcome to today's show, where we have a Red Sox team that is fighting for their lives for a playoff spot right now, and they are lingering right around that last and final wild card spot. So we're hoping that they can clinch that wild card spot before my anxiety levels just continue to increase. But while the Major League team is doing that, we do have a very exciting team in Worcester right now in AAA. Many players who are very talented that are being watched right now at that level. And I have the perfect person on today's show with me to break down everything going on with the Worcester Red Sox, Katie Morrison-O'Day, who you would know from MassLive, doing lots of WooSox coverage, just constantly on Twitter, giving us updates on what's such a talented roster right now. Katie, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Yesterday felt like it was 1 week's worth of news. So, recovering, but yeah, it's an exciting time. It's an exciting time to be in Worcester.
Absolutely, it is. Yeah, I have not made it to a Worcester game yet this year. And so I keep telling my fiance, who's also ironically a big baseball person, he coaches baseball. So we just have that shared love of baseball. And we keep saying we need to go to a Worcester game, especially with these guys all being in Worcester now. It's definitely a fun team to watch, arguably the most fun team in the Red Sox system right now to watch. And, there's lots of different players that I definitely want to touch on today's show. Huge news about the big three all being called up to Worcester at the same time, which is definitely super exciting. But somebody who we've been keeping an eye on in Worcester as of late is somebody who typically is on the Major League roster in Triston Casas, somebody who unfortunately was dealing with a pretty severe injury in his rib, which is not anything to be taken lightly. And he's working his way back to the majors, and rumor has it he might be back on the Major League team soon. But I just wanted to get your perspective on how he's been looking in his rehab assignments in Worcester.
Yeah, definitely. Yesterday, I feel like after not seeing him for a week, he looked more locked in. He looked more locked on. He seemed like his timing was just on. I don't think we're ever gonna know exactly what type of pain that he's dealing with. I think that the message he's been sending is the injury, there's going to be pain. Like, it's just going to be part of the rehab process, and it's just what he can manage. And, I'm not sure if on different days it's worse or better, but just from a baseball perspective, I just felt like he looked much more like the Triston Casas that we're used to seeing. I mean, he hadn't played for months, so I think that the first week when he was in Worcester, it really was just kind of getting his feet wet. I know I remember him saying, I'm sure he was joking, but I want to get down there and get one game, some at bats, and maybe I'll be ready to go. I think he's learning that it takes a long time to get your feet back under you, and especially with an injury like this.
Absolutely, yeah, and it was definitely heartbreaking for him because I was really looking forward to a big season from him in the majors this year because of what he did last year and just really showing us how capable he is of being a fantastic player this year, being in the conversation for rookie of the year last year. And I think he had a lot of expectations for himself this year, and going into this season, it was definitely going to be a big Triston Casas year, and he's such a huge addition to the Red Sox lineup that they've been missing for so long. And I feel like, you probably have experienced this firsthand with him. He just has such a desire to be back there, and he just hates the situation he's in.
Absolutely. I mean, one thing I can confidently say about Triston Casas is that man loves baseball.
Yeah.
He loves playing baseball. He loves, learning about baseball. And, I would imagine that this had to have been the longest time that he's ever been unable to, even swing a bat. And, that's your whole identity. That's what you
Yeah.
do. And so he is very mature in a lot of ways. I think he was talking a couple weeks ago about learning mentally how to deal with it, and taking in the game from a different perspective. And but I think it's got to be a difficult line to walk to see what the Red Sox are doing, know that they need help, but also to give yourself time to get fully healthy from an injury that, I mean, who knows, can this thing linger? I mean, it's such a unique injury, but I still I would expect that he would be back pretty soon. I really think that he took it to another level last night, and I don't perhaps it was that way when they were on the road trip too, but yeah, he just looked much more like himself. He's moving well. He doesn't look to be in pain. It's not like you ever see him wincing or moving gingerly, and so I mean, that's a positive, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And it seems like he definitely is making strides in the right direction. And I think what was tough about it was the Red Sox weren't being super clear about his timeline over the last couple months. It was really a big mystery as to exactly what his timeline was and when he was going to be returning. And I think his timeline for himself was a little bit different than the timeline that the Red Sox had. And I think that's been tough for him too, is him saying all these things about, originally he was saying, I want to be back by the All-Star break or in July. And the Red Sox, I think, knew that wasn't realistic. And that was definitely frustrating from a fan perspective, too, is like, well, what is the real story here? Like, what are we supposed to believe in terms of when he's actually realistically going to be back with the major league team?
I mean, it was kind of the same thing in Worcester. I felt like every homestand we were waiting to see if he was coming through, and I think even when you look at the things that he's said about how he feels, I remember at the end of last homestand, there were conflicting reports because on the same day he told Chris Cotillo and Rob Bradford that, he was no restrictions, feeling good, and then told Nesson's Laura Stickles that, it felt like he was being stabbed.
Yeah, I
And
was
then,
like, where'd that come from?
right. And for me personally, I've heard multiple times him express somewhere in the middle of those two. What I've heard from him mostly is that, yeah, there's going to be pain, but you know that it's gotten better. Yeah, so I don't know that we'll ever know. That's just the weird thing about this injury. It's so unlike a calf strain or a UCL tear or whatever, because it's just so nebulous. And I imagine that I imagine that or my thought is that nobody was quite sure when this was going to happen. And it's like, now thankfully we are at the point where I'm very encouraged to see that from the moment he got to Worcester, it seems to be like full speed ahead, just moving forward, no setbacks. And that's not always the case down here. So I definitely would feel very encouraged by the progress he's making down here.
Okay, yeah, that's really good to know because the Red Sox definitely could use his bat in this lineup if they're going to make a playoff push down the stretch. And I know he's hungry to get back. And, it's definitely very reassuring to hear that he's on the right track and that he could be back soon because for a while, when people hear this injury, they think, okay, he's out for the season. Like, we're not going to see him anymore. And I think that was the conversation a lot of people were having originally was, this might be more serious to the point where we might not see him for the rest of the season. So I think the fact that there's conversation about him coming back soon is very promising and positive.
Yeah, it's obviously he will be a huge help. I mean, you realize when you're sitting there and you watch him launch a bomb like he did last night. Even Roman Anthony said, I feel like a little kid kind of just watching him hit. It just sounds different off the bat. It's a fun experience. And they could, like you said, they could definitely use them. So I do think help is on the way.
Yeah, which we love to hear as Red Sox fans here who have been very frustrated with just how this season has gone and all the ups and downs that we've had with the injuries and all that. So that's definitely very promising. And you mentioned him already in Roman Anthony. So coming up next, we're going to be talking about him as well as another big name who made it into the Worcester lineup too that we might see in the major league system maybe next year, but we're about to find that out. First, I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Game Time, which is a great resource for tickets, whether it's for a sporting event, comedy show, concert, whatever you like to do. Game Time has a great deal on tickets for all of those events. I've saved on so many baseball tickets this year by using Game Time, and they give you great seats too. I just love going to baseball games in the summer and going to different ballparks, and the prices that are on Game Time are very good compared to other ticketing vendors. So if you are like me and like to go to different places and attend different events, Game Time is the place for you. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. I've recommended this to so many of my friends for ticket needs. So you can be the next person to do that as well. I am here with Katie Morrison-O'Day from MassLive, who covers the Worcester Red Sox. And we talked about Triston Casas and how he might not be in Worcester too much longer, which is very exciting to hear as the Red Sox are looking to make a playoff push here. But this team for a while now, at least over the last few years, has really pushed their future and focusing on the future of this organization and the players who are going to step up and be those cornerstone pieces of the franchise moving forward. And it's funny because I don't know if I've ever really seen prospects who have gotten as much attention as the three names that I'm about to say in Roman Anthony, Kyle Teel, and Marcelo Mayer, all three players that Red Sox fans have been eagerly anticipating. And they all on Sunday together got the call up to AAA, which I think is super cool. They all played super well in AA Portland, and they definitely deserved to be called up to AAA and get their opportunity. They're all guys who the Red Sox have made it very clear they see as part of their future of the Red Sox. And so you experienced this firsthand. Roman Anthony and Kyle Teel did make their WooSox debut. So how did that go? Like, what was that like for these guys?
It was, I'm sure it was a whirlwind of a day for them. It starts with the DCU club at Polar Park, absolutely packed with cameras, reporters. I mean, dozens of people, and a setup for them. And I think we forget how young they are, and I can't imagine doing that at their age, to just face down all of that media. But they were great. They obviously have experience, and are they're all mature in ways like for their age, and but yeah, it was great to see Kyle and Roman get into the lineup. I mean, Roman was right in the fire from like the third pitch of the game or something like that. He made the first out. That was an easy out. Second out was kind of like a sliding catch in center field. And then right away, second pitch he just ropes a double. And I gotta tell you, it was pretty neat to see he's on base, he's on second base for Casas, two batters later, who hits home run, and to see them running back to the dugout together, it's like a real taste of the future, and it was pretty cool to see that. And I know that he thought it was pretty neat. He was talking about how in spring training, like I said, he felt like a little kid, but he was talking about like in spring training when he was on base for like a couple Devers home runs, and it just must be so cool to feel so close. I mean, you must feel so close to the majors. Not only are you 45 minutes away from Fenway, but you're playing in a lineup with Casas, with guys like Reese McGuire and Vaughn Grissom, and I mean, it's got to be the best lineup in AAA right now. I mean, I would not want to be facing that lineup as an opposing pitcher. And Teel was great too. I mean, it wasn't with the bat necessarily last night, but I mean, he gets thrown right into it, catching Shane Drohan, who who was making his first start for the WooSox this season after he got returned from Chicago, the Rule 5 draft. And he just gets thrown right in there, and I think he caught a good game, and they I think all very much I don't know, it was very cool to hear them say, we were not necessarily thinking about like all of us, where all the media were, when are they coming up? When are they coming up?
Yeah.
And they're like, we weren't really thinking of it like that. We were just enjoying playing together. And to have all three of them come up together is so unique. We've had obviously a lot of prospects come through Worcester. I feel like 75% of the Red Sox
Yeah,
are
really.
guys that I covered, which is wild. But to have 1, 2, and 3 all come through, for them to have this like bond with each other, I just really can't think of any other parallels that I have seen like this, not with the Red Sox. I can't think of any other examples. It's just a very unique situation, and very, very cool for the fans in Worcester. It's definitely time to take advantage of the last, I'm not trying to advertise, but take advantage of the last 3 homestands, because these guys are going to be really fun to watch.
Yeah, and what's cool too is it seems like they genuinely have a really solid friendship off the field too, just like the three of them. Like I know Roman Anthony and Marcelo Mayer were just talking about how it's cool that they are getting called up to AAA at the same time, and just all of the hard work that they put in is finally paying off. And I think that's really cool too, just to see the way that that trio has just become like so close knit throughout their journeys together.
It is really cool. You can tell that they are like genuinely friends, and that they genuinely like enjoy playing together. And like, how cool will that be when it translates to the majors? You know what I mean? To have these guys who have been together from such a young age. I mean, basically kind of are growing up together in a sense,
Yeah.
going through all these steps, and or this big step here. And it's a it's a very cool atmosphere right now, between the guys who are getting called up. I mean, we've had so many guys called up this year from Worcester,
Yes.
and I just feel like more than ever, it feels like you are just like a heartbeat away or whatever. I mean, that's a bad way to put it, but like you are just a calf strain away from heading up to Fenway. And to have all three of these guys all at once be, right there. It's just like, I mean, uh you can't help but be excited for the future, like, of this team. I think it's a very unique, very special situation that, like, I mean, will we get to see something like that again, to have all three of them here? I can't wait to see all three of them on the field together. That will be so cool. But like I said, I mean, even just seeing them with Casas and knowing that, like, yeah, that's the future, and they're so young, and there's so much time ahead of them. It's really neat. It's fun to watch.
Yeah, and that's got to be cool for them too, like being with Casas and seeing, somebody who has made it at that level and being around somebody like that. I'm sure that's really good for them to be able to look up to him, ask him questions, and, find out how he got to where he is, because that's going to be them. And it's definitely good for some of these younger players who haven't gotten to that level yet to interact with some of the major league guys who are on rehab assignments, who have made it up to that level, to be able to say, hey, like, what advice do you have for me for when it comes to be my time?
I mean, Teal's locker is right next to Reese McGuire, and obviously, he's had his trials this season, but the man's a major league catcher,
Yeah.
and has plenty of experience and wisdom, I'm sure to impart for, these young guys, especially Kyle. And yeah, like you said, having Triston down here, especially having Triston down here for, like, it will be like this is the third week at this point. I really think it is like a great resource for these guys, because he is really not that far removed from it. It's funny. He says it feels like it's been forever since he was in Worcester. When I see him out there at first base, I'm just like, yeah, this feels like it was like 2 months ago. Wait, what? Time time makes no sense.
Yeah,
When
right.
you're in 4 seasons, they all just kind of smushed together. But it really wasn't that long ago. And to see him accomplish what he has and go through what he has, which I think is also valuable. Um, I think there's, a lot for these guys to learn, and I think, obviously early impressions, but they seem to me like they would be very eager to learn and soak up everything that they can. And they all seem very appreciative of the fact that they're here. I think they all realize that it's a big step. That the jump from double A to triple A is the second biggest, right? The only one that's bigger is triple A to MLB. So this is the biggest test for them. So it's pretty cool to see them just kind of jump right in and look like they've been here, all year. So
That's so cool to just probably experience that. And, I know they're definitely eager to showcase what they can do at the AAA level and get themselves up to the majors eventually. Do you think, there's a chance that we see any of them at any point next year in the majors, or do you think they're going to need the rest of this season and at least a full year in AAA before they get to see some playing time?
I think I used to be more like conservative in my estimations of like how much time a guy would need in AAA, but through the years, I've just seen them so many guys just kind of, I mean, like Rafael is like a great example. We always say Rafael feels like he was a sea dog, not a WooSox. We loved having him for the bit of time that we had him. But when you think of his minor league career, he's a sea dog. We just had him passing through on his way. We can't claim him as much as we would love to. Whereas like a guy like, Duran or Casas or Sogard, of course, like they've been here for a good amount of time. They really feel like WooSox. But on the other hand, I feel like these guys are very mature, very advanced, like for their age. And I think if it seemed like sometime next year, I mean, I would think that they would need a few months at the beginning of the season to, you need time to go through the slumps. You know what I mean? You
Yep.
need time to, that's I think one of the most important things in AAA, or I guess any level, is to experience failure, to know how to come back from it, to make the necessary adjustments, to let some pitchers in league see you. But if it's this time next year and they look like they have passed the test, in AAA, I don't see any reason, why not. As long as everybody's healthy and stays healthy, which is always a concern. It's yeah, I mean, I would, if I were a Red Sox fan, I don't necessarily agree sometimes when I see like Twitter replies like call up Teel now. I don't
Right. Yeah,
think
no.
that that's the right move.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
But yeah, no, I think that getting to be here for a few, for the last few weeks of this season, get their feet wet, and then really get into it, gets a few months under their belt next year. I feel like that's definitely a possibility.
Yeah, and obviously injuries at the major league level are a factor too at some point too. Like as we know from all of the players who have been injured this year and guys like Sogard getting their opportunity this year, and Mickey Gasper just recently
Yeah.
being called up and having a big important at bat in his Red Sox debut. So it's
Mhm.
like you get guys like that, right place, right time, and get their call up. So it might not be like this where they all get called up to the majors at the exact same time. It's kind of circumstantial more, but it is exciting to think about as a Red Sox fan, knowing, this is the future. These are the guys who are going to come up and be the cornerstone pieces of your franchise. And we've talked briefly about him, but coming up, we're going to get a quick update on Marcelo Mayer. When's he supposed to come back and make his Worcester debut? That's coming up. But I have to tell you about PrizePicks because this app is so fun for playing daily fantasy sports. It is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. And unlike other apps on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you have to do is download the app and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. My fiance has done it. He has won a lot of money doing it. And you can make picks on different sports. The WNBA is coming back. So that's another sport that you can take into consideration with this as well. So you might become addicted, but don't say I didn't warn you. And while you're also downloading PrizePicks, make sure you're also staying hydrated, as Liquid IV is a great hydration supplement that you can pair with water to make sure you're staying hydrated while sitting out in the hot heat this summer and watching Worcester Red Sox games or Boston Red Sox games. Make sure that you're getting your fair share of hydration. Liquid IV is a great way to do that. They have a variety of different flavors that you can use, like cherry, raspberry, even pina colada flavored. Lots of different ones that you can try. Tear, pour, live more. One stick and 16 ounces of water hydrates better than water alone. No more thirsty summers when you indulge in hydration with Liquid IV. Get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com and use code MLB at checkout. That's 20% off your first order when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code MLB at liquidiv.com. And full disclosure, this is great for after a night out. So if you are in that boat ever, definitely stock yourself up with that today. I have really enjoyed my conversation here with Katie Morrison-O'Day from MassLive, who covers the Worcester Red Sox, and she's around these guys every day, and she sees the future of the Boston Red Sox. So as frustrating as the last few years have been on the major league level of this team, we can think about these prospects that are going to be coming up here in the next couple of years and what they can really do to make an impact for the rest of their career, hopefully, in Boston. And one of those players who is probably the most talked about prospect on this Red Sox team right now in terms of an organizational standpoint is Marcelo Mayer. I mean, just the anticipation for this kid has been crazy, and just the talent level and what he's expected to bring to the table when he gets called up to the majors is truly remarkable. And he unfortunately was not able to make his WooSox debut at the same time as his two buddies there, and Roman Anthony and Kyle Teel. But Katie, what can you tell us about kind of his timeline in terms of when we should expect to see him in Worcester's lineup?
Yeah, WooSox manager Chad Tracy said hopefully this week. But then when he laid out what comes after that, I'm not sure if it will be this week. So Meyer's still dealing with Trace called it lower back soreness. I've seen it referred to as hip soreness. So that area. He was playing in Portland. He did get into a few games in the last homestand, but they're just being super, super, super cautious with him. They see no reason to make him play if he's in any sort of pain or anything like that. So the plan is, I'm trying to remember exactly what he said, but the plan is he wants to see him take, infield work, ground balls, make sure that there's no pain associated with that. Take BP. He didn't take BP yesterday. He was out there, but he didn't swing. Have him take BP, make sure that there's no pain with swinging. And then after that, he should be ready to play. So that could happen fast. That could be this weekend. I'm not sure. I wouldn't say tomorrow, most likely. Probably Friday at the very earliest. But yeah, there's no reason to rush him. There's no, especially that area, things can linger, like we talked about with the ribs. Excuse me. But those things can become a problem. So they're really taking it slow with him. I wonder if he had been healthier this year, if we would have seen him earlier. He's dealt with a couple different things, but we will see him. There's no sense of like shutting him down or anything like that at this point. When we see him, I'm not sure, but we're definitely excited to see him get on the field.
I know, seriously. And I agree with you. There's no reason to rush him because this is a kid who could be a generational talent for this Red Sox organization, and you don't want to jeopardize what could be a very successful long-term career for him just because you really want to get him on the field right now. And I think they've handled him like this really since they drafted him. They've just very much proceeded with caution with him. And I've seen Red Sox fans again on Twitter who have said that too, like, let's call up Mayer when there's like a gray area at shortstop or the middle infield is looking a little bit dicey. It's like, no, let's hold the phone on that. Like, we know he is going to be the future, but he's not there right now. Like, he needs to be able to develop in the right way before he does come up, because I promise I feel like it'll be worth the wait for people when he does come up if they do this the right way.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there is no, like we said, there's no sense in rushing him. If you don't want this kid to go out there and in his first game at this level, he's obviously going to want to play full speed. He's obviously going to trying to tell a kid in his early 20s, like, hey, turn it down a few notches. It's not really going to work. So the only thing you can do is keep him off the field until you're sure. He did say that he was in Boston seeing a doctor Monday, I believe. And I mean, there was no negative from it. I just think that they're keeping a close eye on him. And yeah, there's as much as we want to see him. I think it's very interesting because I think with all three of them getting called up at the same time, there's that slight sense of disappointment when they're not on the field at the same time. But think about it, it would make absolutely no sense. Like Marcelo's the one who was the most ready to be called up. If you take out the physical, injuries, he was the most ready. So imagine calling up the other two and leaving him in Portland. Just
know,
doesn't
right?
make any sense. That would be crazy.
That'd be crazy.
But that was on a message. But weird message. So yeah, it's just Trace seemed very confident that we will see him he will get, a few weeks of at bats. We're coming up, we've got about a month left, or a month and a week, like 5 weeks or so left in the minor league season. So I think he will have plenty of time to have it feel like he is getting some time at this level before the end of the season, unless something else happens, of course.
Yeah, that's definitely the key, I think, is he has to go into next season having gotten some reps already in AAA. I do hope that he's somebody who we don't have to be concerned about injuries throughout his career, because I definitely want him to be able to stay on the field, because there definitely are players who just haven't been able to consistently stay on the field, and that's really tough when it comes to being able to watch them succeed, because it makes it very difficult for them to be able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you see, I don't know necessarily what the numbers say or anything like that, but just going off like gut feelings, it feels like we are, as like an organization, they're trying with certain guys to make sure that they are not rushing things. We were talking about Casas. I mean, I imagine the Red Sox feel pressure to bring him back up, but I think we have to step back and say that, like you said, like these are like possibly generational talents, and we're going to see them hopefully play for a long time. So,
That'd be ideal.
if we don't see them play for a week in Worcester, we're going to have to get over it. The time will come.
I know, right? Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely excited for these guys in the future of the Boston Red Sox. I think they're very much in good hands with all of these players, and it's definitely interesting to follow their journeys as these guys have gone through the system. And I actually met Roman Anthony at Winter Weekend, and I was like, I can't wait to, watch the rest of your journey. I can't wait for you to eventually get that call up. And here he is in AAA, and he's so close to making it up to that major league team. And I think, too, the Boston Red Sox are just such a storied, historic franchise. And so for these guys, that also is a feeling of like, wow, like I get to eventually play at Fenway Park as long as I continue to put the work in and just be part of such a historic organization and just one of the best organizations in baseball to play for. So that alone definitely probably drives some of these guys too.
Oh yeah, I mean, I can't but think about like some of the guys who have just recently gotten called up. Guys who weren't on the 40-man roster, like Gasper, like Chase Sugar,
Yep.
who's and I mean, and Nick Sogard, like they have, especially those two, Shug and Sogi, they have, I think they very much realize that this is like a very good place to be as an organization. Being this coaching staff, like in AAA, the facilities in AAA, it's, I mean, Casas said that the clubhouse at Polar is better than the clubhouse at Fenway.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like we have like, world class sort of facilities for these guys, and an incredible staff, and there's always player development people around who are keeping tabs on things. And I just think that you do see guys who, I mean, like look at like Brad Keller just signed like a minor league deal back here after electing to be a free agent. I think there is something about the way that things are being run right now that is appealing to players, and that they are grateful to be in this organization. And yeah, like you said, I mean, like I'm thinking about somebody, yeah, like Mickey Gasper grew up in in New Hampshire, and yeah, he's a Yankees fan growing up, but he was born in New Jersey, and we'll have to give him a little pass. But you know, obviously, whether you're a Red Sox fan or Yankees fan, playing on that field is a feeling unlike any other, I'm sure. So yeah, it's been a very cool season for things like that. To watch these guys get up there and succeed. It's great.
I know, what a rewarding job you have, really, and just being able to go out there and cover these guys and just interact with them, and so many of them that are just hungry to get up to that major league level. So we'll certainly be on the lookout for, the future of the Boston Red Sox, because that is what it is, guys who are very talented that really are going to be the guys who are making an impact when they get up to the majors. And that's just a very exciting feeling. So, Katie, this was an absolute pleasure having you on the show. I really do appreciate you taking the time.
Oh, thank you so much. It was so much fun.
Yeah, definitely appreciate it. And everybody appreciate you making Locked On Red Sox your first listen of every day. Be sure to check out Locked On MLB next with Paul Sullivan, as he will talk to you about everything going on across the league, especially if you're looking for updates on other teams that the Red Sox might be chasing in the playoff race. So make sure you check that out wherever you listen to podcasts. Like I always end my show, keep the faith, go Red Sox, and I will catch you next time.